Welcome to Ask Philip for August 2nd, 2024. We do these every other week here in the Wits and Weights Facebook community, or you may be watching this on YouTube. So if you want to get your questions answered in the future related to nutrition, training, lifting, muscle, metabolism, mindset, all of that, just join the Facebook group totally free. I'll approve you within hours as soon as you make the request. And then you could post your question on the thread and get it answered this way. So today, we actually have one announcement I want to make, and then we'll jump into the question we have for today. Today's podcast episode features our very own Jazz Young. He's a member of the community, his fellow lifter. He's a big, happy guy who's was a lot of fun to talk to, and you should definitely reach out and say hi to him in the group. Again, Jazz Young, and he's prepping for his first powerlifting meet. He wanted a little bit of help with his nutrition beforehand because he's a little bit north of 300 pounds. Can't quite get down to the 275 weight class. He's in the 308 weight class, and it had about 8 weeks left to the meet. And he was wondering how he could lean out but still maintain his strength and performance. So we talked about how to balance those priorities. And I think the way the discussion went, the principles we talked about apply to anyone for any situation where you have two somewhat competing goals. And there's some principles behind that will work to kind of figure that out. So check out the podcast for sure. It's pretty short. It's only about 23 minutes. And what it is, it's a recording of a Zoom call we did together, which are my 15-minute rapid nutrition assessment calls. And if you go to the episode, it'll have a link if you want to do the same thing. So you could jump in and book a free call with me. It is not a sales call. Trust me, it's not. You'll hear on the podcast that it's not. It's literally just asking questions, figuring things out, working through it, and then discovering, okay, what's holding you back and what can we do to get you some results in the short term. So check that out. And I'm just going to jump in and answer the question today in Ask Philip. So we have a question from, my Zoom is blocking it here. Here we go. Wyatt Wallace, Wyatt is really good about taking advantage of this to ask questions and effectively get coaching on specific issues as he goes along. So, if you have questions yourself about anything, how do I get enough protein, right? What do I do with my fat loss plan based on my goal? Be very specific, give me context, but I will be happy to answer it. So his question is about red meat. Red meat. What is the truth about red meat? And he says, my wife and I prepare 2 proteins weekly for our meal prep. I typically eat 6 to 8 ounces of cooked chicken or ground turkey for lunch and dinner. We found recipes that call for lean, 93% or higher ground beef, but it makes her kind of anxious because of all the hoopla about red meat being bad for you. And a lot of it is hoopla, but we're going to talk a little bit about nuance today. I don't really pay attention to all the claims because I feel like if I'm generally eating good whole foods and exercising and strength training, there's not really a bad for you when it comes to stuff like eggs, beef, etc. You are 100% correct, Wyatt. And honestly, we could end it right there and that would probably be enough. I know you're an overthinker like me, right? In fact, you're going to be featured as one of the surprises or the myths busted in episode 200. So wait for that. And it's actually about the whole like overthinking data. It's okay though. I'm just like that. And sometimes it leads to interesting insights. But seriously, we could end it right there, but let's keep going. What have I missed or ignored? That's what you want to know. How much does stuff like organic or grass-fed really matter? Are there downsides to red meat, and is there a need to limit it? So I'm going to give a shout out to Coach Lambie, Dustin Lambert. He's in the group. He's another coach. What I love about like the coaching business is we help each other out to help clients and help guys or men and women pull the information together and try to avoid misinformation. And he's really good about breaking down studies on his podcast, which is called Working Weights LLC. And he's done a couple about red meat. One was like a call out episode, but find the older one. It was about, I don't know if it's about diabetes or cardiovascular risk, but he covers some of the science. Anyway, just to answer some of what you're getting at here. First of all, the benefits of red meat are huge. And I think people underestimate it. Red meat is very nutrient dense. And some people would argue it's like the most nutrient dense of all the meats. And it provides you obviously protein, but iron, zinc, vitamin B12, a whole bunch of essential nutrients. And there are lots of studies that show this. There's one from 2016 from the Proceedings of the Nutrition Society that looked at nutrition and health benefits. Or red meat and health benefits. So there's a lot of benefits to red meat besides it tasting amazing. I mean, red meat is delicious. And you said that you're selecting the 93%, which is super lean and doesn't have a lot of the extra fat, or saturated fat, right? Health concerns. So this is where people get confused, because some studies have definitely linked consumption of red meat to increased risk of heart disease, certain cancers, other health issues. But it's almost predominantly red meat. That's one type of study you'll find. It's processed red meat. Okay, processed red meat. So we're talking about things with preservatives, the bacon, things with nitrates, cold cuts that are processed, those kinds of things, and or people that have poor diets, right? So it's in the context of poor dietary patterns overall, because, for example, Americans tend to eat a lot more red meat, but it's in the context of lots of processed foods. Okay, so that's a key distinction we have to make, because what we find is, and you pointed this out, that incorporating red meat as part of a balanced diet with plenty of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, micronutrients is acceptable for anyone. It's acceptable. It's fine. Okay. And there are studies that show that as well. There's one from 2015 that looked at dietary macronutrients and food consumption as determinants of long-term weight change in adult populations. This was a literature review. And basically that's what it found. It's like, look, red meat is fine in people who show that they have an overall healthy dietary pattern. How red meat is cooked may have an impact. I tend to avoid like super high temperature overcooking my meat. I like medium rare anyway, so it doesn't happen. My wife likes more like medium. So, but just as long as you're kind of avoiding that like overly charred, overly cooked meat, which honestly doesn't taste great anyway, and what it does to like your cancer risk with amine exposure and all this other stuff, just be aware of that one little nuance. And then what's the other thing you mentioned? Oh, the quality of the meat. I think the main thing with the quality, like the grass-fed beef, is that it tends to have a better nutritional profile. Some people will argue it's better in the omega-3 to omega-6 profile as well, which it is, but that's not necessarily as important as we used to think. The quantity of omega-3 seems to be what's correlated with better health, not necessarily the too much omega-6. So overall, you basically answered the question already for yourself. Whole food diet, strength training, moving around, eating a diverse diet with fiber, with nutrients. Red meat is perfectly fine. Limit the processed red meat and limit overcooking it into a charred brick, and you should be fine. That's Ask Philip for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that was helpful, Wyatt. Please take advantage of this, guys. Alan's going to post the next one probably on Monday so that I can answer that 2 weeks from today. And I hope everyone has a